All right, let's do this. Hi, my name is richard.lesperance. I go by the name of Blind Man Richard. Welcome to a better lifestyle. Today I have a special guest. Her name is Philipa Games, and we're going to be talking about web analytics. And she does digital marketing strategy. And I think you guys are going to learn a lot, so you guys could grow your business to the next level. So please, Philipa, tell everybody who you are, who is Philipa, and we'll get started.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I mean, I'm me. I'm originally British. I live in California now, and I've been working in web analytics for quite a long time since before Google Analytics, and since essentially analytics was even first thought of, which was very early on in the World Wide Web. And a lot of people don't realize this. There were programs before Google Analytics started, and that's how I got excited about it. And but what interests me about it is not the numbers for the sake of the numbers, or I'm not sort of just a data geek, but what you can do with it and how you can really learn stuff that you wouldn't otherwise know, that helps you grow your business and think of new ideas and different ways of doing things. And so even though it's data driven, it's kind of quite creative at the same time, which is what I enjoy.
And how long have you been doing it?
Well, like I said, rather a long time. But the advantage of that is that you see stuff come and go, and so if you've got a few years in the business, then you know a lot more about what we have so many fads in digital marketing. There's so sort of the latest bright shiny object syndrome is really active in digital marketing. But if you have some longevity, then you've got a better idea of what actually works and what actually stays true. I mean, it's interesting that old-fashioned marketing principles still apply, even though we do it differently. But there are some basic tenets of how you do marketing that you just adapt to digital, but it's still the same. So there's new stuff and stuff that just continues.
Would you say it's crucial for a business to have a website? Because some people just go by having a Facebook page or something like that.
Well, I think it depends on what your business is. I mean, yes, I do get. I mean, there are certainly people who don't have a website. I mean, if you're a business that works a lot with government, right? Typically, the way that government sources contractors is a whole different process from necessarily having a public website. And obviously there are some businesses that are, don't want to put out a lot of their information about what they do online. So, there's those. And I mean, I certainly meet business owners who say, look, I'm so busy that I don't need a website because I've got all the business I can handle. I get referrals. I'm fine. And that may be true. So, if you really feel like you're in that category and you really don't want any more business, I mean, okay. The thing about only having a Facebook page is that it's a bit of a risk if you do need business, because I think a very common misconception about social media is that we own our social media presence, and we really don't. It's a platform, right? But basically, Facebook owns you own your information and you can control what you put on there. But Facebook can, for example, or any other social media platform, right, can change, the look and feel of the page. I mean, how it's presented, the order in which stuff shows up, what they're going to put in the middle of your page in terms of advertising, or if you, there's all sorts of things that can be. And in fact, when Pinterest started, I believe that Pinterest terms of service actually said, we do own your content. If you put it here on Pinterest, we own it. And there was kind of a backlash against that. But I think it's important to understand that on social media, things can change. It may not be to your benefit. And so you don't have control of that. Whereas obviously with your own website, you do have control of exactly how it's presented, when it's presented, and so on.
So what about there's one issue too. People might not have time to do all those things, the web analytics and all that. So what would you say about that?
Okay, so if you do have a website, And if you do want, to be growing your business, then, in my humble opinion anyway, you're wasting your time. I mean, you're shooting in the dark with everything that you're doing if you don't then figure out what's working and what's not working on that site. Because if you do have a website, then you're putting time and money into it, right? You're putting effort into it. If loads of people are coming to the site but they're not buying anything, then something's wrong. That's not fulfilling your goals. The money that you're using, especially if you're advertising, is just going to whoever you're paying, and you're not getting anything for it. And so, you may be getting, I don't know, let's say you get 20 sales a week or something, but if you're not looking at your numbers, you don't realize that represents a tiny fraction of how many people actually see your products. So you really do want to know what's going on. What of your content, what of your pages people are interested in, what they're not interested in, what you should be doing more of, because as I say, otherwise, essentially, I think you're just sort of shooting in the dark. You've got no direction and no kind of feedback.
And so what are the main things that, if someone owns a website, what are the main things that they have to pay attention to when it comes to the analytics?
So the key thing is your strategy. So, I mean, because there's no necessarily one size fits all answer. And I think that's a really important thing for people to get. I mean, everybody knows their own business. So if your website is trying to sell products and service, it's an e-commerce site, maybe that's one thing. If it's selling information, content, that's another thing. If it's a lead generation site, that's another thing. Right. So for each and individual business, it's what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to get people to read a lot of your blog content or watch your videos, right? Or sign up for your newsletter? So you've got to understand what your desired outcomes are and why, and who are the people that you're trying to attract, who's your ideal customer, and all of those, as I said, traditional kind of marketing things. And then you can take that to the numbers and start looking at the numbers intelligently. Because if you don't do that, if you haven't thought that through, honestly, it's completely overwhelming. You can go to, I mostly work with Google Analytics, right? There is just chart after table, graphic, whatever. And you don't know where to start. And it's overwhelming. And a lot of people, therefore, don't want to spend a lot of time with it because it's just so huge, and you can't blame them. And I think this is really important. When I talk about, I do consulting in this, right? So I've never had somebody come to me as a prospective client and say, I want to pay you to give me 50 pages of analytics reports. That's not what they want. What they want is, what do I need to know to do this better? Right. And yes, you can show me some numbers if you want to, but what I really want to know is what's going on. What do I need to do differently? What do I need to be aware of? It's not the numbers for themselves. So that's the way into it.
Okay, so you say it's different for everybody, but there's got to be some maybe a KPI or stuff like that. What are some metrics that inside the web analytics that people could pay attention to?
So let's just be, so a KPI is a key performance indicator, right? It's a measure of how you're doing against one of your goals, your numbers that's important to you. But I'm not saying obviously not every business is different in the sense that every business essentially wants to make money. But what's the most important thing to you to do on your site? And maybe that changes. Maybe there's a special project or a special campaign, this week. But the point is, it's not just number of visitors, because if the number of visitors aren't doing what you want them to do or going where you want them to go, then you're not getting what you need. So yes, you can start with basics like how many visitors do we get, where do they come from, but then you want to follow that through to, okay, once they get to the site, what do they do? And then you can start drilling down and to get into more sort of specific detail, like are there certain types of visitors that buy our products and certain types that don't? Is it because of the marketing channel they come from? So if they come from a search engine and they're using a specific kind of search or certain words, does that make them better prospects for us than other types of visitors? I mean, typically, this is another example of something that's been around for ages. But, you know, for ages, people have been saying email is dead. I mean, nobody uses email anymore. And of course, it's not true, because they still do. And whenever you see surveys of marketing executives, they always say that email is still one of their top marketing channels, because, and especially today, when you've got permission to send people emails, that people have said, okay, I don't mind hearing from you. So you can say, okay, so do the visitors that come back through my email newsletters do more of what I want them to do than people who are new to my site, for example? So you can start asking really more specific questions and getting some more idea of what you want to do more of, you know, as you get into it. And so those KPIs will change based on what you learn, if that makes sense.
Do you have an example, like a user experience? Let's say when they go to the site, but they check the site, but they don't buy and everything. So do you have people always try to find out why? Like you know, they visit, but at the end, you know, even at the cart, they don't buy at the end. So do you have examples of stuff like that? Then how was it fixed after?
Yeah, and that's it's a great point. So one thing we have to remember is that very few people are at your website typically to buy immediately. And it's interesting because it's not like going to the grocery store, when most of the time you go to the store, you walk in, you already know what you want. But on most of our websites, that's not true. People are doing research. They're trying to figure out who you are, what you have, if they don't know you. Which is why email newsletters are very helpful, because then at least you can say, well, if you're going to, you know, can we get your email address, so that at least we can get back to you, we can stay in touch. And there are lots of reasons why people don't follow through. And one of the kind of creative ends of doing this is to try to figure out why that is. And sometimes it's because, you know, the site isn't working too well, or maybe the products aren't displayed very well, or that, you know, you don't have a lot of reviews that persuade people that it's a good product, that kind of stuff. I mean, you have to start kind of trying to figure things out. In the shopping cart, there are times when people suddenly come across shipping charges, and then they get, you know, that's not something they were expecting, and that kind of puts them off. A lot of the time, it's because you haven't got a call to action in the right place. So one of the things that I consistently find is that people don't do what you want them to do if it's not obvious to them. And a lot of site owners, you get so close to your own stuff that you think it's obvious what people should do next. I had a client recently who had a kind of special deal for a month, and he specifically wanted to move a certain type of product. And so that's what I'm saying. This is where it changed, because this was a specific thing he came up with. It was going to be a month, and then it was gone. And he was finding that people weren't going to the page where he was advertising this thing from the homepage. And I said, well, because it's not on the homepage. And he said, yes, it is. It's in the menu navigation at the top. And I said, yeah, but the menu navigation at the top disappears off of the screen pretty quickly once somebody starts scrolling down the page. And there's nothing that's in the middle of the homepage saying this month only, get this, right? Which is what you really want if you really want to draw attention, you know, because not everybody looks at the menu bar, and you can't rely on sort of only one place where you're pointing out what you want people to see. And it sounds kind of simplistic when I say that, you know, well, it's not front and center in the homepage that this is this month's special deal. But as I say, to me, this is an example of where he was so close to it, and he's saying, yes, but the link's right there. And I'm saying yes, but that's because you know that. And if you don't know that, it's very easy to miss it.
Any trends in regards to for analytics? Because you said like if you go way back, Google Analytics and all that. I know things have changed, like they have evolved. Any new trends now?
Well, the big thing at the moment is privacy. So, especially in Europe now, there's a lot of concern about personally identifiable data. That's data that, literally ties to one person, like an address or a credit card number or health data, whatever it might be. And the ability of people to say, you can't store my data, or tell me what data you have about me and so on. And so analytics is changing quite a bit in terms of how people are tracked. And you might have heard of cookies, right? And that, other people's advertising cookies and so on are really sort of being phased out. So that's quite a big trend at the moment. So that's why now you come to a website and you get these consent banners that say, is it okay to track you, or what can we do? So, it's important for people to understand that the analytics, because there are people who say, no, you can't track me, the analytics do not contain, sort of complete numbers of all visitors to your website. Because if they say you can't track me, then you can't track them. So almost certainly any website has more visitors than are in the analytics.
So when it comes to what about AI now and all that, does it play a big part with the analytics?
Possibly. Well, so AI can be really good. And if you go to, I'm talking Google because that's what I mostly use, but it's got a section now where it will alert you to different sudden spikes in traffic or differences in traffic, or you can set it to give you certain types of alerts, and it will learn what you mostly want to know. So that can be helpful. And it can also, based on trends in users' behavior, it can predict, like, for example, it can predict sales levels, and, which can help you to create fulfillment plans and so on. I think there's two issues. One is you have to have a decent amount of data to teach the AI, right? So if you're a small business, that's less likely to be the case. And the AI, some people are concerned that, for example, again with Google, like, we don't know what the algorithms are for the things like the predictions, or, we can set it, if we can tell it to do an insight for us, but if we don't, we're not exactly sure, what it's calculating and how and why. So we get what it tells us. We don't know how it's using that data. In other words, it's analyzing behaviors, but we don't know what algorithms it's applying to analyze those behaviors. And they may or may not be valid. So, there's, I think with AI in general, the answer seems to be yes, it's very useful, and there are caveats.
So what about those people who are using AI to create websites? Is it the same kind of thing with the traditional way of creating a website when it comes to analytics?
When it comes to analytics, yeah. You mean people who are writing copy?
No, I mean someone who creates a website with AI. Is it the same thing like for the analytics? Yeah.
I don't do design at all, so I'm not particularly familiar with that. I know obviously we're using AI for SEO, for copy. There are all various aspects of digital marketing where AI is coming in. But as I said, I think that the caveats are there, and the sort of reminder that people should check the ultimate product before putting it out.
No, I was just wondering if there's a difference in analyzing the data from a website that was created from AI and from a website that's created like traditionally. So that's what I wanted to know.
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay. No problem. So what about the SEO and all that? Because I know I had an episode before with someone on digital marketing, and he was talking to us about SEO and backlinks. How can people leverage that? Because that plays a big part too in the overall analytics too.
Yeah. And so SEO, search engine, and organic search, which is the search that you're not responding to paid ads, you're clicking on regular search results, is still, along with email, which I mentioned, one of the higher quality traffic generators. So people who are doing a search and come to your website often are better quality prospects for the business than people coming from ads, because they're more proactively searching for exactly what they want. And what you want to know, obviously, if you're doing SEO, is not only obviously where we show up in the search results, and then how many people click on the search results in the search engine, but also then what's the experience of those visitors when they come to our site? Are they good prospects for our business? Which means, which will then tell us, are we optimizing for the right keywords? Do we have the right kind of content to meet their needs? That's then going to help them to work with, or, engage with our business.
So what are the tools that people can use when it comes to web analytics?
There's a lot. I mean, okay, so there is Google Analytics, which is the largest kind of free tool. A lot of people are upset with the latest version of Google Analytics, which is much more difficult to use from the interface perspective. It's very powerful. I mean, I really enjoy using it. It's very customizable. You can tell an awful lot of quite a lot of detail about what's going on, what people are interacting with on a page, how far down the page they go, what they click on, even what they hover their mouse over, so you can see where their attention is. And a lot of that is really, really useful. But there are, especially again in Europe, privacy concerns with Google. So, there are other programs. I mean, Adobe is a program for more larger businesses, enterprise level businesses. And there are quite a few different smaller programs. P-Week is quite well known in Europe, Matomo. And I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go through a whole list, but there are programs that do specialist things like heat maps, which again tells you where the sort of attention goes on the page. So, I mean, there's a good variety of tools to choose from.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you have a book that's out, or?
So actually, no, well, to be honest, my book is kind of old now. It's published about 10 years ago. I am proud to say it was endorsed by Guy Kawasaki. And it's one of those, it was called 42 Rules for a Web Presence That Wins. I think you can still get it at Amazon, or you can get it from me. But I mean, I don't promote it anymore because it's old. But what's interesting about it is that it's a book about strategy. So the rules are all kind of how to think about digital marketing and web and your website. And most of the rules still apply. So, I've been talking about, you've got to understand your strategies. You've got to understand what you're going for, think about the quality of your visitors and how they move around the site. Thinking about what they want, how they feel, what they respond to. I mean, there's a lot of strategy that hasn't really changed. How we do it has changed. So, the examples and case studies are probably dated now, but a lot of the content, the rules aren't. So I've been wondering about updating it. I haven't yet done that.
So, what will be your last words in regards to everything we talked about?
So, the thing that I really would like to encourage people is, as I said, it can be daunting. There's, it feels like there's a lot of numbers, a lot of charts, but there's a lot you can get, that you can learn. And a lot of times I've found opportunities for new products or services or target audiences, ultimately in what we see. And I would encourage people to sort of think, or to be interested in what it can tell them about how to run their business and how to grow their business, I should say. On my website, which is at websitesthatwin.com, there's a free ebook which you're welcome to come and get, and it's called five stories, 5 gems from my clients, where we've found something in the analytics that we wouldn't otherwise have known, and we've made an actual change to the business or to the website that was quite significant. And the stories are all in English. There's no kind of graphs or charts. There's no how to use the interface. And it's really designed just to give people some inspiration and some ideas of some of the stuff that you can look for, to encourage people to take another look at the analytics beyond the just sort of, how many visitors did we get? So as I said, if anybody wants the book, it's my gift. It's free. So please come and get it.
So you mentioned your website. Where other people could find you on social media?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and I certainly welcome anybody to come and join me or connect with me on LinkedIn. I actually, that's really, what I do. I don't necessarily do other social media.
No problem. Thanks, Philipa. It was nice. It was nice meeting you and talking to you. I hope everybody found some value in that episode. So I really wanted to do this and go into another sphere when it comes to digital marketing. So web analytics is really something that sometimes we don't think about or we don't do properly. So it was very good. It was very good. So on that note, thank you everybody for taking the time to listen to the podcast. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. My name is Richard.lesperance, and I go by the name of my man Richard. And I was with Philipa Gamse, and we'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Bye-bye.